The Gulf Coast, where the waves serenade the shores and the sun kisses the sand. But have you ever wondered why it's not quite as packed with occupants considering beach lovers as, say, like in the West Coast or the East Coast? Well, we've got the reasons why. Unveiling the borders of the Gulf Coast. The United States Gulf Coast is a region defined by its proximity to the Gulf of Mexico, a large body of water extending into the country's southeastern part. This coastal area encompasses the states that border the Gulf of Mexico, having a diverse range of landscapes, cultures, and economic activities, including offshore drilling rigs that stand tall like actors on a grand stage, extracting petroleum and natural gas, fueling the economic engines. It's a stretch of shoreline that hugs 5 states, including Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. But unlike other coastal areas, it's not bustling with high-rises and crowded beaches. From the bustling city life to the tranquility of coastal towns, the Gulf Coast gives a wide range of experiences for both residents and visitors. Imagine it as a thriving hub, teeming with inhabitants seeking paradise. It's a cradle of marine life, economic prosperity, and a battleground against environmental challenges. But hey, it's not just about the resources. It has a cultural tapestry that's as rich as the seafood gumbo. But, truth be told, not everyone is looking for a slower pace of life or a seafood-centric culture. It also boasts a temperate climate, hot summers and consistent precipitation, perfect for year-round living. It's a colossal, flattened, U-shaped coastline stretching over 1,200 miles, embracing the Gulf of Mexico. So, what's holding people back? It's a sunshine haven. But it's not all about resources. It's also about the hustle and bustle of life. Reality paints a different picture, where the population remains surprisingly sparse. Now that we've got a bird's eye view of the Gulf Coast, let's dive a little deeper, shall we? The Gulf Coast isn't just a sandy stretch of beach. It's a geological subject matter. Well, history plays a significant role. After the Civil War, many African Americans fled the South seeking better lives, leading to a massive exodus. Industrialization drew people to the north and the west, leaving the south, including the Gulf Coast, relatively less populated. To unravel this enigma, we journey back to an era when the promise of this coastal haven beckoned to pioneers and settlers. As explorers set their sights on new horizons, the Gulf Coast stood as a potential. Early European colonists, enticed by its landscapes and abundance of resources, established colonies. Yet, they soon found that the paradise had a temper, a fury that emerged, wreaking havoc and leaving communities shattered. One of the main factors that sets the Gulf Coast apart from other coastal regions is its scorching heat. The sweltering temperatures can challenge those seeking a more temperate climate. From the coastal cities of Texas to the shores of Florida, the Gulf Coast experiences high humidity and blazing summers that can be a deterrent for potential residents. But is the heat alone responsible for the low population density? Let's find out. Hidden gem yet few footprints. Over time, people have been moving back to this stunning region, but it's not seeing the population boom like other parts of the country. Why? One word: infrastructure. The Gulf Coast faces a significant challenge with outdated and inadequate infrastructure. Poor road conditions, deficient bridges, and water supply issues discourage potential residents and businesses. Secondly, it's about the job market. While the Gulf Coast offers breathtaking views, it may only sometimes provide a wide array of job opportunities compared to larger cities. Many people choose to live where there's a more substantial job market to support their livelihoods and families. Despite its natural beauty, the coast faces limitations in terms of employment diversity. The region heavily relies on industries such as oil and gas and the military. This narrow focus may deter individuals seeking a broader range of job prospects. However, there are exceptions, like the dynamic and modern cities. Sure, we've got some thriving cities like Houston, New Orleans, and Tampa. Still, the job diversity and market demand in these larger cities on the east and west coasts can often overshadow the Gulf Coast's appeal for potential residents. When deciding where to settle down, job opportunities play a crucial role. And then, there's the ongoing struggle against pollution. The delicate balance of life in the Gulf is threatened by oil spill pollution from industry and agriculture, creating vast dead zones that challenge the very fabric of this ecosystem. Conservation and restoration initiatives are working tirelessly to revive the Gulf Coast, preserve its natural beauty, and protect the livelihoods of the communities that call it home. Facing the nature's fury. Another aspect that may discourage people from settling along the Gulf Coast is the threat of hurricanes. This region is no stranger to powerful storms and the devastation they can bring. The constant risk of hurricane strikes can make it a challenging environment. Let's talk hurricanes. Mother Nature can be unpredictable here. The Gulf Coast is known for its fair share of intense hurricanes, which can understandably deter folks from putting down roots in this beautiful region. Hurricanes can be a deal breaker for potential residents with their fierce winds and unpredictable paths. The fear of dealing with the aftermath and insurance costs might make some folks think twice about shopping on this picturesque but tempestuous coastline. One of the most infamous reminders of this tempestuous relationship was the Great Galveston Hurricane of 1900. It was a colossal tragedy, claiming thousands of lives and virtually obliterating the city. This devastating event, etched into the annals of history, left scars that made some reconsider the seemingly idyllic life along the coast. Furthermore, the region battled environmental challenges. Wetlands, vital for safeguarding against storm surges and providing a delicate ecological balance, were rapidly disappearing due to development and environmental degradation. The delicate balance of nature was disrupted, leaving coastal areas more susceptible to the wrath of hurricanes. In more former times, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in 2010 cast a dark shadow over the Gulf Coast. It was an environmental catastrophe that scarred the coastline, affecting marine life and the livelihoods of those dependent on fishing and tourism. The disaster made potential settlers think twice about restoring roots in an area profoundly impacted by such industrial accidents. These devastating events created a decade of economic struggle, crippling tourism and stalling economic growth. And then there was the steady, creeping menace of climate change. Rising sea levels and increased frequency of extreme weather events became a growing concern. The beauty that attracted people to the Gulf Coast now seemed fragile, vulnerable to the changing climate and unpredictable consequences. The United States has been grappling with a growing crisis along its coastlines, an alarming increase in coastal flooding. Coastal flooding is an escalating issue. The evidence is irrefutable. The numbers are staggering. Why is this happening? Rising sea levels, a consequence of climate change, are the main culprit. As sea levels climb, coastal cities face a daunting challenge. The root cause of this escalating issue lies in the changing sea levels directly impacting human activities in coastal areas. Rising sea levels result in the inundation of low-lying wetlands and shorelines, contributing to coastal flooding and allowing saltwater intrusion into estuaries and groundwater aquifers. Moreover, rising sea levels make coastal infrastructure increasingly vulnerable to storm damage. The concept of relative sea level change, denoting the ocean's height relative to the land at a specific location, is crucial in understanding this phenomenon. Climate change-induced rising sea levels can cause an observable consequence: increased coastal flooding. This flooding, once limited to seasonal high tides or storms, is now occurring more frequently, often during less extreme tides or sunny days. But this isn't just about tides. It's about lives and livelihoods. Nuisance flooding disrupts daily routines, damages infrastructure, and poses health risks. Over 40% of Americans live near the coast, and over $1 trillion of property is at stake. Additionally, coastal flooding can have dire implications for public health, increasing the risk of infrastructure failures related to drinking water and wastewater, thereby exposing people to pathogens and harmful chemicals. Through the years, these events have cast a cautious shadow over the potential of the Gulf Coast as a densely populated region. It remains a place of wonder and allure, but tempered by the ever-present awareness of its vulnerabilities. As we look to the future, the balance between the promise of a coastal paradise and the reality of its challenges will determine whether or not more will choose to call the Gulf Coast their home. However, the Gulf Coast communities have learned to adapt and fortify against these natural disasters. To track this surge in coastal flooding, tide gauges, like silent sentinels, continuously measure water levels, offering valuable insights into tide heights, long-term local relative sea level rise, and coastal floods. This indicator mainly focuses on 33 tide gauges where comprehensive data is available from 1950. monitoring coastal flooding plays a critical role. By analyzing decades of data, we can gauge the relentless rise of these tides. Stay or leave. As whispers of the Gulf Coast's trials and tribulations spread, potential settlers started to weigh the risks. It was a gamble, to stake their futures against the unpredictable temperament of Mother Nature. For some, the gamble paid off. The resilience of the human spirit became evident in the tales of those who weathered the storms, literally and metaphorically. Take, for instance, the story of the resilient fishing communities. Generation after generation, they braved the tumultuous waves and uncertain livelihoods. Their bond with the sea was unbreakable, and despite facing the brunt of natural calamities, they chose to rebuild and carry on an ode to the indomitable human spirit. However, not all tales were of triumph. There were stories of families who, enticed by the sun-kissed beaches and gentle waves, ventured to start anew, only to find their dreams shattered by unforgiving disasters. The shattered fragments of those dreams were visible in abandoned homes and desolate neighborhoods, a stark reminder of the Gulf Coast's unpredictable temperament. Over time, experts and policymakers intervened, attempting to strike a delicate balance between progress and preservation. Regulations were put in place to mitigate the environmental impact of coastal development. Innovative engineering solutions were introduced to fortify the region against the ravages of hurricanes. The focus shifted towards sustainable practices and harmonizing with nature rather than taming it. Yet, challenges persisted. Rising insurance costs in vulnerable coastal areas added to the economic considerations, making settling by the coast a complex equation of risk and reward. It was a delicate dance between the undeniable allure of coastal living and the pragmatic acknowledgement of the risks involved. The Gulf Coast remains a place where the harmony of nature clashes with the ambition of human habitation. Despite its undeniable beauty and the tenacity of those who call it home, the risks and challenges posed by the very environment that makes it alluring have kept the population relatively sparse. As we stand at the threshold of a changing world, the Gulf Coast continues to evolve. Whether it will attract more individuals seeking a coastal haven or remain a quieter abode amidst the roaring waves is a story that time and circumstance will unfold. We stand at a critical juncture. These calamities demand urgent action. Sustainable practices, resilient infrastructure, and raising awareness are our lifelines against this rising tide. The clock is ticking. It's not just a coastal problem, it's a global crisis. We all share the responsibility to mitigate climate change and protect our coasts. Let's act before it's too late. Subscribe to stay informed, take action, and safeguard our coasts. Together, we can turn the tide. Click like and comment on your insights. See you in our following videos.